Okay, good afternoon, everyone. Thank you for taking the time to dial into this call that we're having with CJ Century Logistics. This is a call that we're having in collaboration with Bursa. So just by way of introduction, I'm Akila. I'm the new transport/logistics analyst at RHB. I just took it on about a couple months back. But yeah, be noted that this will be a recorded session and the recording will be made available on Bursa later on. So today we are very glad to have our guest corporate speaker, Mr. Edwin Yip, the Executive Director of CJ Century, who will be presenting to us the company updates and also attend to any questions that you may have at the end of this webinar. So without further ado, I'll now pass the time to Edwin. Over to you.
Thank you, Akila. Hi, I'm Edwin Yip from CJ Century. Today, I would like to talk to you about CJ Century and what we're all about and where we're heading after this. But first of all, allow me to say hello to our friends here. I can't see the name list, but first of all, thank you very much to Akila as well as Busa for organizing this. I'm very thankful we are able to have this opportunity to present about our company to all of you. Akila, should I continue or wait for more participants?
I think just in the interest of time, everybody's here already. Let's just start on.
Sure, I'll do that. First of all, a legal disclaimer here. You can read it at own time. I think we'll be circulating the slides after this presentation anyway. So please have a look at the legal disclaimer in conjunction with the slides itself. We'll start off with why CJ Century. Some sort of executive summary here. First of all, we are a total logistics solutions provider. We deliver excellent logistics solutions. We're able to meet all our clients' needs and complexities. So, if our clients require specific needs, specific logistics solutions need, we have got expert people here who are able to handle their individual needs. In fact, we have been in this industry for more than 50 years now. We started way back in 1970, in 2016, part of our shares were taken over by CJ Logistics from Korea. And number two, we have got an excellent track record of growth. Really, if you take out our Korea services segment, which we have disposed of last year, we managed to register consistent revenue growth. Our 5-year CAGR was 23.4%, which we achieved by organic expansion as well as strategic acquisitions. In fact, our underlying continuing operations, excluding our Korea services segment, which we have disposed of, was very profitable. Our 5-year CAGR for EBITDA came in at 17.9%. Okay. I mentioned earlier that we have disposed of our Korea services segment. We are thankful we are out of this segment. We started these activities way back in 2017, and through the 4 years until we disposed of the operations, we've actually recorded cumulative loss of more than 70 million ringgits. So it was a very painful experience for all of us. But as I mentioned, we're very thankful of that. And currently, after the disposal, we have a new opportunity to refocus our resources on our core competency, which is logistics. Okay? When we talk about refocus of resources, we're talking more about our financial resources as well as operational resources, and not get distracted and drag in to our Korea services segment. And number 4 here, we have got a very sustainable business model. We are, after the disposal of Korea services segment, we are now able to increase our investments on expansion of logistics infrastructure as well as our technology infrastructure. In fact, we have also implemented a lot of the best practices. We've got the necessary policies in place, and which is very helpful, especially when we tender for multinational contracts. And these best practices extends to beyond economic growth, as well as society, as well as environment, which is pretty much what Bursa is driving us to do, of late. But we believe we are driving way beyond what Bursa is requiring us to do. A bit of our history. As I mentioned, we have been in this industry for more than 50 years now. Century Logistics in its original form was incorporated in 1970. That's about as old as I am. And we were listed in the stock exchange in 2001. In 2016, we became part of the CJ Logistics family. CJ Logistics is a chaebol in Korea. and the company was subsequently rebranded as CJ Century. In 2018, we commenced our painful last mile delivery business. And in 2019, we completed our multi-story warehouse, which I will talk about shortly. 2020, we acquired CJKX, which was originally the Korean arm for CJ Logistics in Malaysia. So we acquired the operation, and therefore we are able to get more Korean customers in our listed companies. And finally, in 2021, middle of last year, we managed to dispose of our last mile delivery business. And hence, we're very thankful we are moving on to a much cleaner slate from now on. Now, post-disposal of our courier services segment, we have got two core segments in our business, what we call total logistics, as well as procurement logistics. In total logistics, we have three core sub-segments. One is integrated logistics. Now, integrated logistics, for all of you who are familiar with the industry, comprises pretty much contract logistics, freight forwarding, transportation and distribution, as well as supply chain management consulting. Now, the fourth one is important in the sense that when we want to cater for multinational contracts, when we want to tender for multinational contracts, we need to be able to provide solutions to them. What's the best solutions for logistics? What are days where who comes in with the lowest cost will get the business? Now is who can give me the best solution to win the business. Again, I'll talk about that shortly. Our second sub-segment is oil logistics, where we do ship-to-ship transfer, as well as ship husbandry, pretty much in Johor waters in PT. Our third segment is data management solutions, where we do document storage, as well as document scanning and storage for our customers. And finally, in our procurement logistics, we do original equipment manufacturing, or what we call OEM, as well as assembling services. Okay. Again, I'll touch on each of these segments in the next few slides. First of all, for those of you who are familiar with the logistics industry, you can close this slide for time being. Okay. What I'm trying to do here is to explain the logistics chain from all the way from the supplier, be it in foreign country or the supplier somewhere in Malaysia. Okay. In this case, we're looking at a supplier in, let's say, in a foreign country. So we've got the international logistics arm, which comprises international freight, where we will arrange for the freight for the products to be transported to Malaysia. Most of the time, it will be transported via the sea, and occasionally it will be transported via air freight. Okay? Air freight generally tends to be a lot more expensive than sea freight. And then when the container arrives in the port, okay, we will do the customs clearance, and then we'll haul the container to our warehouse or our customer's warehouse. Okay, and from there we will have our manpower to pick or to unstuff the container and store the contents of the container onto racks in the warehouse itself. And when the customer requires the products itself, we will pick the raw materials from the warehouse. We will send it to their factory, what we call factory logistics. Okay, and then when they have produced the necessary, we will transport the finished goods to a central distribution center. Okay, of which subsequently, when the customer requires us to distribute the product, we will do delivery on behalf of the customer. So it can be a B2B delivery, or we got e-fulfillment deliveries on behalf of our customer itself. So this picture or this slide, in essence, will be the entire logistics chain from all the way from international logistics as well as domestic logistics. When we export, the reverse is true. We will do exactly the reverse of this, and to ensure that the products ends up in our customers' premises. Okay. For integrated logistics, this is a snapshot of our pretty much our infrastructure. Okay. We currently have 130 own vehicles. It's got fleet management systems and works which complies with the latest safety standards. Now, if you compare us with the likes of some of the listed truckers out there, we are 1-0 short of the fleet itself. But we never ever was really involved in trucking business. we pride ourselves to be a total logistics services provider. And whatever excess trucking needs, we will outsource to strategic fleet. I mentioned here that we have more than 500 strategic fleet nationwide. We work with a lot of transporters, some of which has been recently listed. And with this collaboration, we do not need to own most of our fleet, and hence we have only about 130 trucks currently in our fleet. Okay, but certainly our trucking or transport requirements will be a lot more than that. In terms of warehousing, we have a total warehouse capacity of 4.5 million square feet, of which we currently own about 2 million square feet of it. Okay, so it's pretty much a 40-60 mix. We've got 40% of which is our own warehouse space versus about 60% which we rent the space from various landlords. Okay, this is good. We find that this is pretty much optimal mix. It enables us to ride the good times as well as the bad. When times are a bit slower, we can let go some of the rented warehouse space and concentrate on our own capacity. And when times are good, we can obviously rent more space to cater for expanding needs. Okay. On the bottom left, we are a member of IFLN. We are also a member of the CJ Logistics Network, obviously. Okay. With this network, these two networks which we are in, we are able to manage our freight, deliveries, our freight procurements. So when we want to send a product on behalf of customer to a certain location, we can source for the best possible rates as well as work with the best possible agents via these two networks, IFLN as well as CJ Logistics. And our logistics services are supported by our integrated logistics management systems. We have freight management system in place. We have a proper warehouse management system in place, as well as we've got proper haulage management system in place. And together, these three logistics management systems will be integrated as well as cater for entire logistics requirements. Okay. We currently operate nationwide 30 warehouses or distribution centers spanning the entire Malaysia. This map shows a general location of where our warehouses are. We are currently one of the 3 largest warehouse operators in the country. And you probably know that in this industry currently, most of warehouse space is currently operating at pretty close to full capacity. Our own warehouse capacity is now close to 98%. And we're constantly looking out for more space to rent, as well as we're also constantly looking out for more land to purchase and construct our own warehouse therein. Okay. So yeah, this currently there is a massive boom in warehouse space, and whoever the warehouse owners out there will be laughing their way currently. On this slide, we would like to share with you our new modern facility. We call it the Bukit Raja Distribution Center. It's a 3-story warehouse with a 2-way ramp. So with the 2-way ramp, trucks can go up to the various floors of the warehouse to offload their containers. And we have also got, to optimize our space, we have pushed all our staff car parks as well as all the customer car parks to the rooftop. And therefore, we're able to expand the size of the warehouse to, pretty maximum, given the land we have now. So this is a purpose-built e-fulfillment hub, and you should come. Whoever wants to visit, we're quite happy to welcome you. It's good to see what we're doing here. What's important is that this is a modern warehouse and caters for the latest e-fulfillment requirements. I would like to show you a short video of what the Bukit Raja Distribution Center looks like. Okay, quickly, this is the front view. This warehouse comprises 3 stories. You can see here the rooftop storage. We've also got a nice futsal court here for our staff to play. Here we have the container staging area, so excess containers can be stored here. Here we want to prove to you that indeed 2 trucks can pass side by side on the ramp going up to each of the floors. This is a side view. You can see that you know, our staff car parks are upstairs, and you can see that, you know, the cars as well as the truck can pass each other very comfortably. This bottom segment here is our offices. The office itself is 50,000 square feet. And yeah, so this is a front view of the Bukit Raja Distribution Center. Thank you. I mentioned just now that we do e-fulfillment services. So despite our disposal of our courier services activities, we are continuing to do our e-fulfillment services. So instead of handling it ourselves, what we're doing is we're outsourcing our last mile delivery business to, you know, the various courier companies out there. We do for a multitude of customers here. I can't really print out names, but at least I can mention we do for people like Tupperware, people like Media. We do for people like Astro for e-fulfillment services. So what we do is when the customers send in the quantity, we'll receive the cargo, and then we will inspect the cargo that arrives, and then subsequently we will put away and store the cargo that arrives into various racks. Okay, and when the order comes in for the customers, we will pick from the various locations in the various racks. Okay, we will pack it nicely, okay, into various configurations, and then we will send it outbound. Okay, and finally we will cut it, we will distribute it to various locations as required by our customers. So this is pretty much a short description of what e-fulfillment services is about. So the last stage of the distribution, instead of operating ourselves, we are using third-party courier companies to do this business for us, or this operation for us. Those were pretty much the slides for integrated logistics. I will be quite happy to answer questions regarding integrated logistics maybe after this presentation. Next, we move on to our oil logistics. As I mentioned, we operate ship-to-ship transfer in Johor waters, in PTP particularly. We currently operate 2 floating storage units. I need to highlight that we do not own the floating storage units. Neither do we own the fuel on board these floating storage units. So when we say we do ship-to-ship transfer, we actually operate on behalf of our principals. Now, when we talk about ship-to-ship transfer, can you imagine that when our principal buys oil from abroad, be it from Middle East, be it from South America, they will send the cargo to these floating storage units, and we will carry out the offloading from these floating storage units from the cargo owners to these floating storage units. Okay, and then we will manage the oil on board these floating storage units. Sometimes the oil comes in different grades. We will mix it and blend it to the grades required by our principal. And when the time comes for the principal to sell the oil, or this part of oil from this floating storage unit, we will handle the discharge of the oil from these floating storage units to the smaller vessels coming by. Okay, and generally the vessel traders here, they will bring this fuel from these floating storage units to the port of Singapore to be offloaded to the vessels calling Singapore port. So in essence, this fuel will be used as marine fuel for those vessels calling Singapore port. Okay. During 2021, we handled 360 transfer jobs. It's not very high. In fact, it's pretty low compared to our previous year's average. We generally handle about 600 transfer jobs per annum. Okay. Last year was a low year, pretty much because of pandemic. And as a result, the low volumes or low year, what happened is that our principals took the opportunity to dry dock both floating storage units. Each dry docking took about 2-3 months. So each of the floating storage units were down for 2-3 months at any one time. Okay, during the course of last year. And during 2021, we handled about close to 10 million metric tons of loading and unloading jobs. So again, I mentioned that this is actually a very low volume for 2021, and we certainly expect a much higher volume this year itself. Our other segment of activity is procurement logistics. Our procurement logistics comprises three main operations. One, we call assembling services. Two, we call OEM services. And three, we call it the export business. Okay. When we talk about assembling services, first of all, what we do is our customers will consign their kits to us, their electrical kits to us, and we will assemble their, the kits that they consign to us, and then we on distribute on behalf of customers, okay, to to the various distributors as well as to regional. We do for this segment for assembling services, we do predominantly for TP Vision, for Philips itself. Okay. The second one is OEM. What we do here is that we will, we've got Malaysian customers who require components or require end products, be it TVs, be it washing machines, be it fridges, and when they discuss with us the requirements, we will go and purchase the equipment from China, and then we'll bring in the equipment, and then we will, distribute it on behalf of customers. So pretty much we are doing OEM business on behalf of our customers. And the third segment here is we do exports. For exports, what we do is we've got two main export locations. One is Vietnam as well as Indonesia. In Vietnam, we service three customers there, two of which we export aircons, and the third one we export TVs to another customer in Vietnam. And we also export to Indonesia aircons on behalf of a customer. Now, this segment of business, generally you can ask me, why is it that there's this opportunity arises to us? Why can't the customer itself buy directly from the factory from China, and rather than go through Malaysia, buys it directly? Well, simple answer. For Vietnamese particularly, they generally like made in Malaysia products. Okay? Made in China is a no-no. So the concept of made in Malaysia would have added a lot of value to this product itself. So by us bringing the kits and assemble in Malaysia and on exporting to Vietnam, funnily enough, it actually improves the value of the product. Okay. So during 2021, we have assembled close to 500,000 units of products, of which about 270,000 comprises TVs and 136,000 comprises aircons. The balance will be made out of appliances like fridges as well as washing machines. Next, we'll talk about financials. Okay, this you can see from our annual report. Very quickly, our revenues increased about 37% year on year to 869 million in 2021. Our profit before tax increased about fourfold. In fact, increased from a loss in 2020 to 16.6 million. And our profit after tax increased from about 1 million ringgit to 6.7 million ringgit in 2021. Now, these numbers look really small. That's because the profits from our logistics operations have been diluted, so-called, by the losses of our courier services segment. So if we strip out, obviously the losses from the courier services segment, our profits would definitely be much higher than just what we recorded here. Okay. Next, we look a bit about breakdown by activities. How many percent comprises each of our activities. Okay. Now, in terms of revenues for 2021, total logistics comprises 72.6% of revenues. Oil logistics comprises less than 5% of revenues, while procurement logistics comprises close to 20% of revenues. The balance 3% of revenues is from our courier services, which has since been discontinued. Okay. For 2022, we anticipate the mix will be something like 70% from our integrated logistics. Our procurement logistics will be about 20-odd%, as well oil logistics will be about 5-6%. So it will be pretty similar mix moving on to 2022. Okay. In terms of earnings before interest and tax. If you look at the various bar charts there, you can see that year on year, our total logistics have increased about 57%. Our oil logistics, as explained earlier, has declined 42%, while procurement logistics has increased about 58% to 9.7 million ringgit in FY 2021. Okay. Well, this slide basically shows our trend for the last 5 years. Okay, I want to highlight that we chose the last 5 years not because it gives us the nicest picture, but simply because this trend shows, our revenues as well as EBITDA from the point when CJ Logistics first invested in CJ Century. Okay, so they invested in CJ Century in October 2016. The first full financial year will be 2017. We've grown in terms of CAGR. We've grown from we've grown 23% in terms of CAGR, and our revenues has grown from less than 300 million to 843 million in 2021. And this excludes our courier services segment. So this is pretty much our continuing operations only. For EBITDA, pretty similar trend. We have grown with CAGR of 17.9% to 72 million ringgit in 2021. I can, without Busa is part of this presentation, so I will not hazard a guess on what our EBITDA will look like for 2022. But I like to say that it's a lot higher than 2021. You can talk to me personally, and probably I'll share with you a little bit more information. In addition to our, our P&L, our balance sheet remains very strong. Our mix of equity has increased from 50% to 54%. Our gearing has improved from 0.48 to 0.38 times over the course of 2020 to 2021. Okay, I think what's important here is that after the disposal of courier services segment, we are in a much better footing. Our financials are a lot stronger, and as a result of stronger financials, we are a lot more confident in investing in massive warehouses. We have got massive plans to expand our warehouse capacity further. As I mentioned earlier, our warehouse operating at 95 plus to 98% capacity. So we really need to expand further our warehouse capacity. I'll talk about that shortly. But before we talk about expansion needs, I'd like to talk a bit about our ESG. We really want to strengthen our ESG integration in the group. Important thing is that we must live and believe in ESG. We cannot just talk about ESG and don't practice it. So we have broken down as usual into environment, social, as well as governance. In terms of environment, unfortunately, we operate in logistics, and we are usually assessed very heavily on our pollution index. And unfortunately, in Malaysia, that our trucks can only operate on Euro 2M because the petrol stations are only dispensing Euro 2M diesel, except for selective petrol stations. So as a result, emissions tend to be a bit high, despite the fact that even if we invest in new trucks, emissions will continue to be high because of the type of fuel which we use. So we explore on what other areas can we improve our environmental scores. We have identified a few, obviously. Our new warehouse here is energy efficient. We are using all LED lights, and we are changing most of our warehouse lighting system to LED lightings. We are also practicing on water savings measures, and we advocate that, look, if you don't need to use it, don't use it, sort of situation. So generally, paper usage, those are obviously very small costs, but it contributes towards a bigger picture. Waste management, we have sorting of waste here. Recycling resources, we practice that very, very hard. And finally, we also look at how else can we improve our green index. So we have just signed on a solar panel installers, and we will be installing solar panels on our Bukit Raja distribution center here, as well as one or two of our warehouses in Port Klang. In total, we estimate that each of the system will be about 476 kilowatt peak. So we should be able to save about 1 megawatt, or rather we should be able to produce 1 megawatt of solar energy moving forward. That should come on stream next year. In terms of social, I'm pleased to say that we've got really high good standards. We've got all necessary human rights and labor standards. In fact, in us around, we are probably one of the few who have got a foul labor policy in place. We've got the whistleblowing policy, the APEC we talk about, as well as we've got grievance mechanisms in place. And all these are driven two ways: by the requirements from our customers. Our MNC customers require us to have much higher standards, and because they drive us, likewise we drive our people to have much higher standards, and that has improved our visibility with regards to potential MNC customers. Governance, we at least meet most of the corporate governance requirements of Bursa. Obviously, we've got the necessary boards in place, the necessary committees in place, as well as we've got proper risk management mechanism in place. And we believe that all ESG initiatives here, are definitely at the forefront. It will definitely not be anything inferior to most of the other logistics companies out there. Talking about sustainability, sustainability is not just about ESG. Obviously, sustainability talks a bit about where we're heading, what our future growth will look like. So this is a slide which I presented to the board itself also. Our approach to business sustainability will be 5-pronged. Okay, one, we got to have a sustainable business continuity plan in place. So currently, we need to, or rather, we have been investing in increasing our fleet capacity, our warehouse capacity, as well as continue modernizing our infrastructure. We need to modernize infrastructure to be in sync with the latest requirements, latest technology. Okay, gone are days where where we require X number of manpower. We need to continuously cut down our manpower requirement and replace that by mechanized, mechanical means or automated means. Okay. Number two, customer-centric fulfillment capabilities. As I mentioned earlier, we are continuously targeting growth, how we can increase our customer base further. Okay, so we got to continuously secure new contracts. We need to diversify our customer base, and on top of that, obviously, we need to expand or extend the existing contracts with our existing clients. Okay, logistics contracts are generally 3 years long. So after the end of 3 years or reaching the end of 3 years, we need to make sure that our customer stays with us and not go anywhere else. Okay, this point is very important. I will highlight this in the subsequent slide. Okay, that will ensure our continuous growth moving forward. Number three, robust financial standing. I mentioned just now we have got various cost control mechanisms in place. If you don't need it, don't use it, sort of situation. And obviously, we also need to manage the optimization of assets, of people assets, as well as our mechanical assets, as well as automated assets as much as possible. We've got digital picking lines, for example, in some of our warehouses, where instead of using humans, we have got we've got picking mechanism in 1 or 2 of our warehouses for smaller products. Number four, we've got to continuously spend on digitization as well as modernization of our facilities. So we are accelerating our deployment of digital and develop more technology logistics solutions for operations. For example, we need to ensure simple things. We need to ensure that viruses do not infect our systems. Something as simple as that. So what do? We have blocked all our staff computers from you plug in the USB, is useless completely. Okay, so we have all these various programs in place to ensure that we are of the latest standards. We have we do not fall prey to, for example, malware currently. And number five, responsible management. We impart ESG in everything we do. We believe that we need to create the right balance between economic growth, the well-being of society, as well as, more importantly, the environment itself. So where do we go from here? We look at ourselves and look, we need to continue growing in 2022. We need to continue delivering numbers after we exited the courier services segment. So we have actually divided this into 8 prongs. Number one, customized solutions. We have got scalable technology logistics solutions in place. We are constantly looking at how we can improve further our offerings to our customers. Okay? Be it going downstream, be it going upstream, look at how we can improve further. Number two, extensive network. We have got the necessary locations in Malaysia. We've got necessary regional office in Malaysia. So after the acquisition of CJ KX in Malaysia, we have pretty much completed our network, distribution network in Malaysia. We've got offices in the north, in Penang, Johor Bahru. We've got in Kemaman in East Coast, and as well as got representation in Sabah and Sarawak. So we're pretty much covering the entire Malaysia. Number three, diverse clientele. We need to ensure the steady contribution from our various clientele base. Important thing is, as I mentioned just now, we must ensure that we do not lose customers. Okay, so we must deliver best quality solutions, best quality logistics for our customer. Number four is important point, targeted expansion. We are constantly expanding our customer base. We've got 14, 15 Koreans, as in Korean employees currently in our payroll. And these Korean employees are there to just target Korean customers, Korean conglomerates. What happens here is that we've got HQ in Korea, our HQ in Korea, and when they take wind, they got wind that a potential Korean customer may come into Malaysia. They will inform us in Malaysia here that this potential Korean customer is coming here. Go after them, and our Korean team will go and attack them, not physically obviously, attack them, and to try to win their logistics needs. So attack them in the form of getting to know them, enjoy a bit of drinks with them, have dinners with them, and build the bonding with these Korean conglomerates which come to Malaysia. And because they're new in Malaysia, they will definitely appreciate the new bonding which we extend to them. Okay? We've got also our strategic unit to target various MNC customers, as well as we've got a unit which targets government contracts itself. I'll show you the license. Now, 5, strategic regionalization. No point flogging a dead horse anymore. We have divested our courier services business. Number 6, infrastructure expansion. We need to continue investing in our distribution center. Our warehouses are operating at very close to full capacity. We're looking around for new space, new lands to build new warehouses. In fact, we're looking at expanding our warehouse capacity by 1 million square feet come 2025. When we talk warehouse capacity, it means own warehouse capacity. In the meantime, we will continuously rent space to cater for our ever-expanding needs moving forward. With all these logistics requirements, we need to be technology-driven. We need to continuously build our technology infrastructure. As I mentioned, we have got the necessary logistics systems in place. But on top of these logistics systems, we need to have latest technology. We're also exploring things like ASRS, Advanced Storage Retrieval System. That will also cut down the need for human intervention, but instead make it automated. Okay, and that's very important. Number 8, tax allowances. We have the investment tax allowance incentive, and this will be usable or set off against our tax sometime in 2023 onwards. Currently, we are using our tax losses from the past courier services business. We have got many customers in our company. Put here we are serving over 600 customers. I think it's a lot more than 600 customers. 600 customers are active customers. In terms of top 50 customer base, we're segmentalized into 10 main market segments. Our largest is electrical appliances, followed by commodities. FMCG will be number 3, and so on and so forth. In case you want to know, our top 5 customers will constitute about close to 30% of our revenues. And our top 10 customers will constitute close to 40% of our revenues. So we have got a pretty diverse customer base. But certainly, we concentrate very hard on the big three, the first three there: electrical appliances, commodities, as well as FMCG itself. Electrical appliances, we have customers as diverse as media, the China media. We also service Hisense, as well as we service pretty much the three big China brands. Commodities, our largest commodities customer is CJ Bio. Okay, they have a raw sugar plant in Kemaman, of which we service their logistics requirements. And number three, FMCG. FMCG, the big two of the beverages business out there is our customer. We operate for Etika as well as F&N. So we've got, if you want to invest in FMCG, for example, do consider us as a first spot, for example, because we are, their health, or rather our health will depend very much on their health itself. So they do well, we'll be doing likewise. A bit more about customer base. What Omid mentioned here is that our Korean customer base itself is easily about 30 to 35% of our total revenues. We have Korean customers as diverse as Koei, the ones with the BTS in their posters. We have got CJ Bio, I mentioned just now. We also operate for Hankook Tires. We also operate for Hanwha Qcell, as well as Lotte Chemicals. So those are the familiar names you'll probably hear about. Okay, obviously there are more Korean customers which you probably have not heard about, but certainly as you get more visibility of the Korean investments in Malaysia, we ourselves will be targeting more and more of the requirements. So I mentioned earlier, we have about 14, 15 Koreans currently in our employment. They're there just solely to service the needs of the Korean customers. Close to the end now. Bear with me for a little while more. We've got the necessary certification in place. We've got a health and safety steering certificate, RTS, which is road transport certification. We've got a supply chain security management system in place. We've got an important Halalan Toyiban certification. This will enable us to service the FMCG customers. Okay, the FMCG customers will definitely require us to have this license or this certification before they sign us on. GTPMB, medical devices. If you want to service glove customers, for example, you will definitely need this certification. QMS is there, and the one on the right, multimodal transport operator. This license is very rare. This license enables us to service the government. So if you want to do anything for Ministry of Defense, Ministry of Health, and the works, they will want to see this license first. Okay, this is the first license they want to see before they can pre-qualify us to service them. Okay, so definitely we've got a dedicated team to go after the government contracts. I've come to the end. Thank you very much for indulging us. Feel free to email to myself or my colleague Jen, who's somewhere sitting in the spectator list there. To email us for any requests. I open the floor to questions. Thank you.
Thank you, Edwin, for that presentation. So we'll now open the floor for any questions. Is there anybody that has questions for Edwin? You can unmute yourself and ask away, or alternatively, you can drop your questions in the chat box and I'll read them out for you.
Alternatively, if you're too shy to ask, you can email to me. Reply by email too.
Yeah, that's another option. Yeah. Okay, so if there are no questions for now, maybe I'll get the ball rolling. Maybe the first question that I have here, because you were sharing your breakdown just now, for this year you're expecting 70% from integrated logistics, 20% from procurement logistics, and the balance from oil. So I'm just wondering, for the 70% integrated logistics, are you able to break that down further?
Okay, 70. Oh, I nearly spilled the beans on our revenues expectation for this year. Okay, how am I going to put this up? 70% generally. Okay, break down the big three will comprise freight forwarding, transportation and distribution, as well as contract logistics. For 2021, the rough numbers will look like freight forwarding will comprise about 450 million. Contract logistics will be about 150 million, and trucking will be about 50 million thereabouts.
Trucking would be how much?
About 50, sorry, my apologies, 60 million or thereabouts.
Okay. So pretty sizable contribution coming from freight forwarding. So I guess the natural question to ask you is your freight rates expectations for the rest of the year. Are you expecting it to remain elevated, or yeah, any comments on that?
Currently, the freight rates are very elevated at the moment, particularly due to the misplacement of containers, as well as the much decreased space available out there. All these problems arose again with blame on the pandemic, which is true. Due to the pandemic, because the volumes were low during that time, okay, a lot of ship owners started scrapping their vessels because the steel prices were sky high even at that point in time. So instead of continuing mothballing their vessels, a lot of these ship owners have scrapped the vessels and sold it as steel. So as a result, there's a massive shortage of shipping containers or shipping capacity out there. And coupled with that, obviously, there's a lot of misplacement. China is still in lockdown currently. So there's a lot of massive displacement of containers overall. A lot of containers are sitting down here in the region. Nothing is really going back. So as a result, the freight rates are and will remain elevated simply because there's a massive shortage of capacity as well as a massive misplacement of containers. And this will persist. Your next question naturally is how does it affect our margins? To be honest, no, not very much. As long as the volumes remain, our margins will always remain simply because we are a logistics service provider, so we buy the freight requirements. So if our customers want to export, X number of containers to X locations, we will buy the space on the vessel. So we will be pretty much buying it, no doubt at preferred rates. Okay, and then we will do our necessary markup and we will sell it, the space to our customer. I see David Wong has got a question.
Yeah, please go ahead, David, with your question.
Hey, thanks. Hi, thank you for your time. Can you just talk a bit about because I think Total Logistics Solutions, that segment, you did an acquisition, CJ Courier. Can you just talk about that business? Is it like a carbon copy of what you were doing in the past? And because I saw that ever since the acquisition, that segment's revenue has grown quite strongly. So whether the growth, is it from CJ Courier or is it from your original existing business as well?
Thanks, David. Actually, our growth is from multiple prongs. Obviously, the CJ Courier Express business have contributed a big part of the growth. But in addition to the CJ Courier Express revenues, we have also grown our logistics quite substantially. Now, when we acquired CJ Courier Express, their revenues was about 280 million in FY 2020. That would have added about 280 million, no doubt, into our revenues for 2021, and half of that in 2020 because we acquired half of it. We acquired during mid-year of 2020. Okay. David, did I answer the question or was there another part to it?
Yes, you did. And can I just understand, is CJ Courier, as in the business itself, exactly this? I mean, is it similar to what you've been doing in the past as well?
Okay, not exactly the same. They are no doubt operating in the logistics sphere. We are also operating in the logistics sphere. But first of all, the integration with multiple prongs, okay, they are pretty much concentrating on Korean customers. We were concentrating in non-Korean customers because we simply don't have the penetration to Korean customers. So in that sense, the market is different. Secondly, their concentration is in Penang as well as East Coast, and our concentration is central as well as Johor, southern. So there's, by bringing both together, we are able to have the nationwide footprint itself. So in terms of business, very similar. In terms of customer base, totally dissimilar, as well as in terms of location, very dissimilar. All right, David.
Okay, so maybe we'll move on to the next question. There's one here in the chat box about dividends. So if you could share maybe on your dividend policy, if there is one, and are you planning to pay dividends this year?
Without committing my board as well as without committing on any dividend numbers. we will, and we envisage that we will be able to distribute dividends for FY 2022.
I see. Okay. Understood. Thanks.
So I need to add on to that. Reason why we have not been distributing dividends, 6-7 years ago, we were one of the best dividend paymasters out there. It shrunk subsequently, simply because of our courier services. It not sucked up a lot of our financial resources. And 2 years ago, we also recorded a loss. So that does not provide an environment for us to pay dividends. But certainly moving forward, after FY 2022, we are in a much better footing or much better location to be able to distribute dividends. Hence, without committing my board, we will be able to distribute dividends for FY 2020.
Right. Okay. And sorry, just to recap, right? Your career business, when it was undergoing losses, right? Was it in EBITDA loss as well?
It was a GP loss, not even EBITDA loss, my friend.
Okay, it was a GP loss. So when you've mentioned that this year you are seeing significant EBITDA improvement, let's say I minus out the career business because you've disposed that. So even on the other two segments that you're going to see organic growth on that, I suppose.
Oh, by far. You see, disposing of courier services business is one thing. On top of that, our existing business are growing very healthily. I use procurement logistics, for example. Our procurement logistics suffered from one big factor last year, pandemic, the magical pandemic. Okay, why? During the first half of 2021, if you recall, there was another lockdown that was instituted by the government. So because of lockdown, a lot of operations could not be carried out. But more importantly, because of export market during the first half of a year, okay, a lot of export could not be fulfilled because our Vietnamese customer itself also had a lockdown, so they couldn't receive our cargo in Vietnam itself. So those problems has driven down our earnings in our procurement logistics. This year, we will not see that kind of problems facing us. So as a result, we are very confident that we will be recording much better numbers than even 2021.
Right. Okay. Thanks. And my last question would be, so let's say taking all that into account, last time your blended GP margin before the career business was about it's easily above 20%. So is it okay to assume that without the career business and it seems that things are improving, you'll go back to that 20% levels?
Okay. David, right? Is that David?
Right. Yeah.
David, please don't use those GP margin because again the mix was slightly different. Through the years, I'm sorry, my auditors have required us to reclassify things up and down. So the GP margin, I rather use EBITDA margins rather than GP margins because some of the things have been classified above the line, some of the things have been classified below the line. So there's a bit of movement around already. But EBITDA margin has been very consistent, through the years. And I guess it's better for you to look at EBITDA margins. So yes, we should be able to come close to what we were recording in the past, except the fact that we used to do a lot of oil logistics in the past. That has come down quite substantially, and that has been replaced integrated logistics as well as procurement logistics. Oil logistics were giving us a much better margin at that point in time, but now it's shrunk a bit. But we're able to grow our margins, even the margin itself for our integrated logistics as well as our procurement logistics. But certainly, if you use EBITDA margins itself, I suspect there will be a slight decline, but the absolute EBITDA numbers will be higher, from those days until now.
Okay, understood. Thank you so much, Edwin. Thanks for your time.
Thank you, David.
Okay, thank you, David, for those questions. We have one here in the chat box about the lockdown in China. How do you see that affecting your business at the moment?
Lockdown in China will generally affect all businesses. As long as products don't leave China, it will affect all businesses. But now, if you look at our core customers, we've got media, for example. So the ones that are affected will be those products leaving China. FMCG, no problems. Korean-based customers, no problem. So if you look at the electrical products, media, yes, but we are storing a lot of their cargo in our warehouses. I think they have been anticipating this anyway. So we've got about 380,000 square feet of products full to capacity in a warehouse in Port Klang itself. So that will deplete. They will definitely deplete their needs as and when required from those warehouses. Look, media generally, our billing mechanism to them will be based on percentage of their revenues. So as long as they recognize the revenues, we will recognize our revenues. If they don't recognize revenues and store in the warehouse, we will not get the chance to do them either. So in a sense, because of them stocking up, the future is a lot brighter for us. Besides that, to be honest, I do not really see, other than global trades itself, I do not really see the impact of the slowdown or at least the lockdown in China directly impacting us.
Okay, thank you. Thanks, Gerald, for your question. Another one that we have here in the chat box is they're asking, is it reasonable to be annualizing your fourth quarter results given the freight rates that are elevated right now?
Okay. We will be announcing our first quarter on the 25th or 26th of May. I don't know whether I'll get in trouble with Busa for saying this, but we should be able to do better than the fourth quarter.
Okay.
I'm biting my lips now after I just said that.
Should be fine lah. Okay, another question here is about your Capex allocation, because I think you touched on your technological advancements and also warehouse kind of expansion. So if you could share your Capex allocation for the year and how much of that would be for warehousing and how much of that would be for IT pursuits and maintenance. Yeah.
Okay, if you look at our annual report for 2021, you can see that our capital commitments at that point in time was very low. It's pretty much for IT Capex only. Even then, it's shy from our actual requirements. Now, the way we disclose capital commitments there is only when we have got approved contracts in place. That means we have signed up a supplier, then we disclose as a commitment. Besides, if we don't, it doesn't get disclosed as capital commitments. So, for example, we talk about expansion of warehouse capacity. We are currently looking for warehouse lands. Okay, if we have not identified land, we cannot just put in as a as a capital commitment in our accounts. So if you look at warehouse lands as a primary target now, we are looking at for something at 20 acres. We really need to build about 1 million square feet of warehouse space as soon as possible. So we are just scouting around for the right location and right lands. That's pretty much warehouse. Again, trucking needs, we will be expanding our trucking capacity by about 20-30 trucks for the second half of this year. It's not disclosed again in capital commitments because it was not something which we have committed during the accounts itself. And finally, technological, again, I think most of the disclosure in capital commitments there is pretty much on IT itself. So there's +1 million ringgit there.
Okay, thanks. A couple more questions here in the chat box. One by Sharizman. I'm asking, how does the current high oil prices impact your total logistics business, particularly on the margins? And are you able to fully pass them on?
Okay. In fact, there are two items here which potentially could affect the greater logistics business. One is oil. Secondly is minimum wage. Let me cover oil first. We buy diesel at pump prices. So if you're looking at our direct cost itself, it will not affect us because we buy from pump prices. Okay. So our diesel price will be capped at 2.15 ringgit per liter anyway. Okay. Obviously, nothing is stopping the government from saying, look, free float of diesel. But I think that will be another issue for discussion altogether. But for the foreseeable future, I do not foresee the government lifting the cap on diesel prices. It will be similar to petrol prices. Can you imagine the impact? If the government decides to lift the cap on petrol prices, it will be a similar impact for the industry itself, for diesel prices. That's oil. Minimum wage could be a bigger dampener. If you look at most of truck drivers in Malaysia, you'll be earning something like 1,200 as the minimum wage itself, okay, plus commissions. Now, the way the minimum wage calculation is worked out, it is based on your fixed minimum wage, meaning my fixed salary will be the portion of minimum wage. What I get in commissions does not work towards the minimum wage. So each driver, even if they don't turn up to work for an entire month, they will still get 1,200 ringgit in the past. Now, if you hike that to 1,500 ringgit, okay, there's a 300 ringgit increase per driver, per truck. Okay, so generally the argument is the more trucks you have, okay, is going to impact you in a much larger way. We have about 130 trucks, which equates to about 130 drivers. Okay, so it's a simple equation of 300 times, 300 ringgit times 130 to give us the net impact. Okay, so the more trucks you have, you will put extra zero behind. In terms of our trucks or drivers, it will cost us the extra zero. Obviously, the next question is, can we pass on some of these costs? Yes, we have got room to negotiate with our customers because our contracts generally will build in adjustment mechanism for minimum wage as well as oil prices. Okay, so we have got room to negotiate with customers. But again, the negotiation will be quite subjective. Okay? So when we come back to minimum wage, the net impact to us for the extra 300 increase is actually 50,000+ ringgit per month. It's not very heavy because we do not have many workers or drivers right at the minimum wage level anymore. Does that answer the question? Sorry.
I think so. Yeah, I think that addresses the question. But can I just follow up on that? Like, have you ever faced any shortage issues when it comes to your truck drivers?
Okay, truck drivers has always been a perennial problem in the industry. Thankfully, we have only 130, so it is not a major issue for us. We have got pretty much one-to-one, one truck driver to one, truck itself. But I envisage that if we have a much larger number of trucks, it will be a problem to us. Foreigners, foreign labor will not be allowed to drive trucks in Malaysia. So again, it's a triple D work, and people are generally shying away from the industry itself. Truck drivers will generally not encourage their children to drive trucks in the future. So eventually there'll be less and less, pool to pick from. So yes, the shortage of drivers will be an issue for the industry itself. But thankfully, it is not an issue for us because we do not have a very large fleet. Our fleet is actually very small, 130 trucks.
So even with the additional 20 to 30 trucks that you're planning to add on, that wouldn't be a problem?
No, it's not a problem. Small numbers are easy to manage. Much larger numbers will be difficult to manage. To hire 20, 30 drivers is not difficult. To hire 200 drivers will be very difficult.
Okay. Another question that we have here is about your warehouse utilization rate. Can you share the utilization rate for FY21?
Our warehouse utilization rate is currently, fluctuating between 95% to 98% capacity. Is that the question?
Yeah. Warehouse utilization rate.
It's 95 to 98% on average. Obviously, some warehouses are 100%, some are slightly lower at 90%, but on average, on a merged basis, about 95 to 98%.
Okay. And then you were saying that you plan to add another 1 million square feet by 2025, if I'm not mistaken.
That's our target. Yes. We need to identify lands.
Okay. Oh, Meng Hong, I see that Meng Hong has a question. Meng Hong, could you proceed?
Meng Hong?
Hi, Edwin. Thanks. Meng Hong here from RHP. I just want to ask, do you have a breakdown for your freight forwarding segment? You talked about last year about 450 million, if I heard you correctly. It's coming from that segment alone. Can you break it down in terms of custom clearance, your air, ocean freight kind of breakdown?
I can give you the breakdown, but don't mind. Can you email to me after this? I will reply to you separately.
Okay, that will do. And I think the question is on the warehouse utilization. So you mentioned now you are at 95 to 98%. What was it last year?
It was low. Okay. If you look at the page, the screen we have there, you can see 2018 and 2019 there. You can see even though our revenues are slowly creeping up, our EBITDA are not creeping up over 2018 and 2019. If you isolate those 2 years, the biggest problem is because our warehouses were not operating at full capacity or high capacity. In 2019 itself, for example, our PTP warehouses, we have got about total of 900,000 square feet in Johor itself. our PTP warehouses were operating something like 50-60% capacity in 2019 only. So if you're looking at blended basis, 2018, our warehouses were something like 70%, 80% capacity on a blended basis.
And that has crept up to say more than 90% in 2020, 2021. Was that the case?
More than 95% in 2021.
I see. So meaning to say from 2021 to 2022, there wouldn't be much more space for you actually to rent out or to acquire new customers?
Okay, again, the space maximization has happened towards the end of 2021. So it was definitely lower than 95% in the middle of 2021. Probably about 90%, but it was creeping up towards the end of 2021. So currently we're operating at 95 to 98%, but the 98% was hit only towards the end of 2021.
Okay, if I may, can you also share, what are the recent, big contract wins or customer win that you have?
For that you better because
but I just want to understand, from 2021 to 2022, what sort of new major wins that you had.
Very quickly, we have managed to win. In 2021, I mentioned Tupperware just now. Very quickly, we won the Tupperware business 2021. We have expanded our services to Kuwait. Just recently, 2021, we also won the Astro contract. So now we are distributing the Astro set-top box, the dishes, the antennas, the cables, and so on and so forth on behalf of Astro. Other big name wins, recent wins, probably in 2021. IKEA is a good one. We are doing the Pulau Indah distribution for IKEA. That's in 2021. I think those are at the top of my head. Can't think of anything at the moment. But certainly I'll be happy to furnish you separately. If you email to me.
That would be great, Irwin. Thank you for that.
Thank you.
Okay, thanks, Meng Hong. Are there any more questions from the floor? Yeah, I have one more here. Because I saw that for your FY21, there was a surge in volumes handled by your total logistics services segment, right? So would you say that this surge in volumes is attributed to some element of pent-up demand just coming out from, a lockdown? So moving forward, would you say that volumes would then normalize? Or can we see more growth coming from a better sort of customer outreach on your end?
Okay. A lot of the contract wins, I use Astro again, were towards the later part of 2021, as well as some of the customers we have won, we have managed to ramp up our services to them towards the later part of 2021. So moving forward, I am very confident that our revenues will continue increasing further, simply because one, we are operating at very, very high capacity and very comfortable capacity at the moment. Secondly, we have addressed most of our voids, and our trucks are operating at very nice, comfortable capacity. Our warehouses are operating at very optimal. Our customer base is just about right for our needs, or rather, our needs are suitable for our customers. So again, I like to think that all stars are aligned. We're operating quite comfortably at the moment, and we should be able to see quite a comfortable growth in 2022.
Okay, thank you for that. Another question that I have here is about your oil logistics. I think you mentioned just now that it contributes quite nicely to your GP margins. And also earlier on in your presentation, you were saying that that you were sort of something 9 million of hold on, let me just check my notes. But basically you were saying that the volume was actually pretty low for the oil logistics segment, and then you're expecting for it to sort of grow further this year. What's your expectation for this year then?
Okay, for 2021, again, we come back to pandemic. I mentioned just now that a lot of the actual volume from the FSUs are transferred to vessels calling the Port of Singapore. So if the volumes there are low, obviously there will be less throughput itself. The volumes there are high, there will be higher throughput. So last year itself, the even though freight rates are high, but the actual volume is not high. So that has affected our oil logistics business. Coupled with that low sort of season, our principal has sent the vessels at different times for dry docking last year, and that's affected revenues for 2021 itself. Moving forward, for 2022, we envisage that our revenues from the oil logistics should be very close to the revenues for oil logistics for year 2020. So
in terms of metric tons, because you were saying it was a little bit over 9 million metric tons. So for this year, is there a target that you had in mind?
Oh, this year we should be able to look at about 10, 11, closer to 11 million metric tons.
Okay, thanks. Is there any more questions from the floor, please? Yeah, maybe one final question from me. I'm just wondering, just on the topic of your customers, right? You're saying you're going to sort of try to reach out to more customers, and I'm just wondering, would that be focused more within your existing sort of key segments, or will you be diversifying further your exposure to different sectors?
Good question. We are generally not choosy. But really, if you ask us to isolate, we are targeting the FMCG simply because it provides a lot of, no matter what, people will still have to consume. So it provides a lot of stability moving forward, as opposed to certain business where, the customer pulls away from Malaysia and the entire business just shrinks. FMCG customers are generally always there. Their needs will always be required. So if you ask me one sector, it will be the FMCG customer itself.
Okay. Okay, maybe another one, because you were saying just now that you have like a very unique licensing that is required when you want to service the government. Yeah, is that something that is unique to CJ Century, or is that pretty common to have amongst other logistics players as well?
I think some would have it. But if you look on the right side, 1, 2, 3, 4 there, it shows the bidang. That means the type of it was delivery blurred out. Okay, I'll show you separately. It basically tells you what we can do for the government. So part of it says transportation, some says distribution, some says storage. So those bidang will be there. So if the government needs any of these sectors or these services, okay, this must meet what the requirements are. So coming back to government, if we need to, let's say Ministry of Defense needs to ship some, bring in some ammunition from Croatia to, to their MINDEF here. We can do the freight for them simply because we have this license here. If you do not have this license, you do not pre-qualify yourself to service MINDEF or to service the government.
Okay, thank you. One more question that we have here actually is about, what are your key strengths if you were to compare yourself to other listed players? Like what sets CJ Century apart?
We pride ourselves in our contract logistics strength. What we do is, we have got various prongs with various types of customers. When I mentioned just now Korean customers, we use our Korean customers to attract the Korean. Also, we use our Korean staff to attack and attract our Korean customers. So if you're looking at key strengths, our people are our key strengths. Okay? I mentioned just now we have got MTO here. Again, we have got maybe more government-centric people to attack and attract the government contracts. Okay, as well as got people who are our BD team, who also have specialized people who have lived and breathed FMCG all their life. Okay, to attack and attract the FMCG customers. So again, our core strengths are people. Our people must be knowledgeable, must be familiar with the potential customer itself, and that will give the customer confidence in awarding their logistics requirements to us. If you come back to Koreans again, really, if you want to get Korean business, you're not going to you're not going to, put the lowest rates and they'll give it to you. A lot of times, our people really need to spend time with them, because generally, we tend to find that our margins are a little bit better with the foreign contracts as well.
Okay, noted. Thank you on that. Maybe one final question. You were saying just now that some pain points when it comes to your expenses would be minimum wage and also the diesel prices. So are you able to share a breakdown for your expenses in that sense? Like which one would be like the biggest contributor?
Okay, our single biggest contributor will be our freight. A single biggest cost factor will be our freight charges. Besides that, our next highest will be our wages. Our wages runs in about 80 to 90 million ringgit a year. I think other than that, our other costs will be in about 20, 30 million ringgit or range. So the single biggest, you're looking at top three, will be freight charges. Number two will be pretty much our wages. And number three, if you really think about it, it will be pretty much our rental cost, because we, the other 3 million square feet, on top of, in addition to 4.5 million square feet, 2.5 million square feet are rented warehouses. So those are the big three sort of costs.
And I do apologize if I missed this earlier, but did you actually guide on how much the new minimum wage would hit your wages?
Directly, it will about 50,000 ringgit.
Okay.
So it's a very manageable amount. And when a lot of minimum wage, we believe we can pass it on to our customers. And so the worst case scenario is 50,000 ringgit.
Okay, noted. Thank you.
I want to add that, besides our truck drivers, as well as our procurement logistics, the operators, a lot of our staff are actually quite above the minimum wage itself, the 1,500 minimum wage itself.
Okay, noted. Good to know. Yeah. Do we have any other questions from the floor before we wrap things up? Okay. Yeah, any final words perhaps, Edwin, before we wrap this session up?
Sure. For those of you who are too,
shy
to ask, please feel free to email to me, to Jen. We will, if it's not too confidential, we're quite happy to share responses with you. But certainly, I'd like to say thank you very much for your time and your interest in CJ Century. I also want to thank RHB as well as Musa, Kila, team from Musa. Thank you very much for organizing this. It's been very. I like this opportunity to be able to share our business. I find that we are not visible enough out there, and it's good that I have this platform to be able to share and explain to you what we do, as well as where we're heading, this year as well as moving forward. And I think that's really it. Thank you very much.
Yeah, likewise. Thank you so much, Edwin, for your time and for sharing so much about your business today. I think it was very informative. Yeah, so that's it. Thank you so much, everybody, for taking the time to join. Stay safe and take care.
Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you.